Hi, I'm Dr. Varudhini Kankipati and welcome. Today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about relationships or marriages that are going towards divorce. And divorce in India is something that we don't really talk about. And I want to take this opportunity to say that I'm going to be doing a lot more videos to help people who are going through divorce or thinking of divorce and prepping them a little bit on it. Divorce in India is seen as something of a failure. It's a taboo. If you're divorced, a lot of times people look at you and think, okay, there was something wrong with you and that you failed, you weren't able to keep your family first and do it for your family. So there's a lot of stigma attached to divorce. One doesn't know how to feel about divorce, and I really want to spend some time talking to all of you, telling you that you're not alone, and that I do understand that there's a lot of emotional grief that comes with divorce. So if we look at marriage, we use marriage and we invest in marriage because it's supposed to fulfill certain needs for us and help us to grow emotionally as a person. So marriage is when we end up learning, growing, and developing in a marriage. But then sometimes, because of so many various reasons, two people can slowly drift apart. And so the amount of time, money, investment of sweat equity that we put in building on marriage, we end up feeling like, what happened to all of it? And it's so hard for us to admit that it's ended, because it means that all that we have invested has amounted to nothing. Because the idea of marriage is seen as it's once and you do it and you have to be in it. It's not seen as an option that you can get out. It is seen as forever. All our vows are taken for it to be forever. And so when we give so much of emphasis on it being lasting forever, thinking that it ended just does not sit well with us. We feel very, very lost. So divorce is the grieving of the loss of the marriage. It's a relationship and a person and ourselves, actually. We lose a part of ourselves in that as well. And it's a very, 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 very hard thing to go through. And if you live in Indian society where it's not even talked about or really, empathized too much, you can feel very alone and judged on this. But please remember, I know for a fact that if you've decided to go that route, you would not have done or come to that point lightly. And so I completely empathize with you and know that, you need the support now. And I wanted to talk about divorce in 3 phases. The first is when you're thinking about divorce and that you know that it's going in that direction. The second phase is when you started to put the paperwork in for divorce. And the third is after the divorce, after you got the papers signed and you're on your own. So I always have a pre, then the divorce, and then after. And we're going to look at those 3 stages, and hopefully I can talk a little bit more about it and give you some insights on what you might be going through, what you can also tell me what some of the things you're going through, and we can try and work together to see how we can help cope and pick up the pieces of all of this and keep moving along. So let's look at one of the things there. For our understanding, divorce is seen as 6 stages, and please remember that these stages aren't linear, which means that you need to go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3. It doesn't always work that way. You might be in stage 1 and move to stage 3, then go back to 2. And so what I'm basically saying is, this isn't for you to know that it's linear. I'm talking about these in terms of for you to have an understanding that you're not alone in feeling all of these emotions, and that you will have an understanding, hopefully, of understanding where you're going to move towards. The first one, and the one that we all kind of experience in the beginning, is denial. And what do I mean by denial? Denial is when you're like, is this really happening? Is my marriage really over? You can't kind of come to terms with it, and you think, no, it's not over. It's bad. Let's try and talk more on it. Let's work on this marriage. Let's try and get some more professional help, or let's get mediators, or let's go to our parents and talk. That's kind of the phase where you try and deny the inevitable. In your gut, in your heart, you know that this isn't looking good, but you can't come to that point yet. So the denial phase is when you're like, I don't think this is true. No, it's not going to happen. No, we need to work on it further. And that's really, really a hard place to be, because you're confused. You don't know what to do with that feeling, and you're desperate. You're like trying to figure out what I can do. The denial that no, the marriage isn't over. After that, you go actually to a point of shock. And what I've noticed with my clients in the stage of shock is that they can't believe it's actually happening. And what I've noticed with clients is when a couple comes to me, there's always one person who takes the lead with it. And the person who takes the lead says, I'm done, I want the divorce, I'm not going to work on it, I'm done. So that person would have already thought about it, they would have digested it, they've made the decision, and they've taken that step. But the partner hasn't reached that place yet. So the partner is still grappling with it. Oh, okay, let's try, we'll do that. But they wouldn't have come to that mental understanding that it's over. So what happens is the partner who hasn't taken the initiative or they're the ones who are in shock a lot of times. So when you're in shock, you can't believe that the marriage is over. You're trying to, you feel blank. You don't know how to process this. And you feel very lost and hopeless. So that's the next stage. And from there, we go to the third stage, which is a stage of contrasting emotions. And what I've noticed in this stage is that the partners they're confused. They know the divorce is happening. And then they feel like, no, it cannot happen. I need to go back and let's try this. And they get desperate. They get desperate and they come, no, you know, we've put too much effort and you cannot give up on this. And then they start to feel like they need to make some major changes. They go to the partner and like, you know what, I will change 180. I will do this for you. Don't do this. You're giving up on the children. Is this what you want? Do you want this for our whole family? We've put too much effort. You cannot do this. And then that's one day. Then the next day they're like, it's over. My life's over with this. I don't know how to pick up. They feel, so it's a contrasting emotion from not giving up to feeling like they can't make sense of it, to feeling another emotion that is seen is like, yeah, I don't want it. Why should I? If the other partner is not going to invest in it and they're not going to change, why should I do it? I'm okay. I'm going to be fine. I can do this. My children are going to be fine. My parents are going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. And so you will be oscillating between all these extremities. So this contrasting emotion could be extremely tiring, exhausting, confusing for you. So from contrasting emotion, one can find themselves in a state of bargaining. So you bargain. You're like, okay, let's do this. And this is where a lot of couples find themselves renegotiating and thinking that it might be better to be separated than going to divorce, okay? So in bargaining, what you end up doing is you go to your partner or your partner comes to you and says, let's do one thing. Just having gone through all of this, I don't think it's worth it. Let's keep this going for the sake of the children. And in return, what I will do is I will live in another room, or I will change my job, or let's move countries, let's move the city, let's start all over. And what you try to do is you try to bargain, you try and leverage, do something. I'll change this, but don't do this. Because the thought of the divorce is just too overwhelming for you. So another stage is when you start to bargain. And this is really a hard time because you've gone through the other stages, you might have gone through it, you might really in your gut know that it's over, but you just don't have the heart to say, I'm done. And it takes a lot of strength to feel like, okay, I can start again. And you go through these feelings of feeling like you failed. You failed yourself, you failed your family, you failed your children. And it's such a visceral feeling that you failed that you would start to notice that you're not emotionally or physically doing well as well. I see a lot of my clients who are going through this, going through a huge change physically too. Either they put on too much weight or they lose too much weight. They're not able to concentrate on work. They feel like they can't make sense of what their life is or the direction it's going. They feel like they're not able to show their face in front of people. They don't feel like they can go into family functions or anywhere, and they start to withdraw. And so this whole process can take such a toll on one's mental health. Another stage of this is when you start to let go, when you realize this marriage is really dead, and it really, really sinks in, and then you feel like, okay, I have to let it go. I have to let it go. And when you start to think about that over and over again, that I need to let it go, it starts to sink in that I have to move on, but not there yet. And you start to change the way you're talking about it, and you're like, okay, it's over, it's done, these type of statements. So anyone who talks about it, you're like, no, it's done, it's over, I can't go through this anymore. I've had enough conversations regarding it. I don't want anyone's intervention in it. And that's when you slowly feel like, okay, I have to let it go. The sixth stage is acceptance. And acceptance is when you finally come to understand that this is it. Now I have to pick my pieces of my life together and redo everything, make major changes in my life, and starting to build confidence that, you know, my children are going to be fine, parents are going to be fine, I'm going to be fine, and slowly trying to understand how to move on and pick these pieces. So in all these six stages, none of these are easy, and we will notice that we have a lot of emotional ups and downs. I earlier was talking about how your mental health gets a beating with this. And so I want to spend a little bit of time and talk about what you need to do. The first thing, and I really highly recommend this, is if you're going through a divorce, please try and find some close friends who are there to just listen to you, be there with you, maybe take you out for, you know, a drive, or there's someone that you can just do some other things just to break the, you know, emotional ups and downs that you're going through. Second is, if you can, please reach out to a therapist, preferably a therapist who has a background in family and marriage therapy, so that they will be able to really help you navigate through these ups and downs. Because marriage or the divorce is the loss and you're grieving it, but it also means that somewhere you have to try and make sense of your past pain. And a lot of times so many issues come up and you feel like, why didn't I see this? Why did I not know that this was how it was going to happen? If I had done this before, we wouldn't have reached here. And you start to second guess. And a lot of times what happens is we start ending up living in the past of what you could have done, where you missed it, and you start beating yourself up so badly that you don't even have the energy to look at where you are and to understand, what do I do now? And so, yes, it was very painful to have gone through, but let that pain somehow morph into personal growth. The pain's going to exist, But once you start making understanding of what that pain means, understanding how you don't want to carry that pain into unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy way of thinking, unhealthy way of feeling about things, and you really consciously start working on dealing with that pain will morph into something really beautiful, which is your personal growth. And I have to tell you one thing, I have seen so many couples, so many, and the one thing I've noticed is that the more you're able to be kind to yourself, compassionate with yourself, and understand that, you know, the memory of that past relationship can change, and that with time you will start to be able to look at that memory in not as much pain, not as much anger and resentment, but more like that was painful, but I have grown so much from it, and that I don't regret it, but I know that it has taught me to be exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I want to be doing, and you will feel so much better about it. I'm going to end here, but it's not the end of our talk on this. I want to, like I said in the beginning, I want to be able to do more videos on this, because this is a topic that does not get spoken about, and you might feel like you're alone in this, but you're not. So if there's any specific question you have regarding divorce or what you're struggling with, please do leave a comment, and I will try and get some content there for you so it can help you on your journey. So thank you so much for being with me here. So if you did like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and take care, guys. Bye.